Today we are going to revise Essay 701, which is Communicating Key Audit Matters in Independent Auditor's Report. Communicating key audit matters. First of all, key audit matters mainly means that those matters which in auditor's professional judgment were very significant to the audit. He either spent like a lot of time on that or made a lot of judgments about it. The risks were high, or like he did a lot of audit procedures on that matter. So those key audit matters are the matters which in auditor's professional judgment which were of most significance in the audit of financial statements of the current period. Now this essay has two things, that is the scope includes two things. The first thing is that auditor has to determine what exactly are the key audit matters, and secondly what should be the form and content of such communication when he is including that in the auditor's report. So this essay, first of all, we need to know what it applies on. The essay 701 is going to apply on complete sets of general purpose financial statements of listed entities. So first of all, it is going to apply on the general purpose financial statements of listed entities. Secondly, if there are any such circumstances where the auditor believes or he decides to communicate key audit matter in the auditor's report, like apart from the listed entities where it is compulsory. The next would be that if it is required by law or regulation. So, where does this SA 701 apply? It applies on listed entities. It applies if it is required by law or regulation, or there are any circumstances where the auditor decides to communicate the key audit matters in the auditor's report. Now, one important thing is that as per SA 705, this SA 705 prohibits the auditor for communicating key audit matters when the auditor is going to disclaim an opinion on the financial statements. So, whenever there is going to be a disclaimer of opinion, then in that condition, the SA 705 will prohibit communicating key audit matters as per SA 701. Now, first of all, what is the definition of key audit matters? Key audit matters are, this is an important definition, that key audit matters are those matters which in the auditor's professional judgment, that is what he believes in his professional judgment, were of most significance to the audit of financial statements of the current period. Key audit matters are selected key audit matters are selected from the matters which were communicated to the TCWG under SA 260. So in SA 260 there are certain matters which are communicated to the TCWG. For example, any opinions that he has on the accounting policies, high risk of material misstatements, the areas which are there, and his opinion basically. So it details, SA 260 details the matters which are communicated with TCWG. So from these matters which are communicated with TCWG, the key audit matters are selected. So key audit matters are those matters which in the auditor's professional judgment were of the most significance in the audit of financial statements of the current period, and key audit matters are selected from the matters which with the TCWG. Now, the objective of the auditor under this SA 701 would be to determine the key audit matters, and next after that, having formed an opinion on the financial statements, communicate those matters, describe them in the auditor's report. So first of all, he has to determine the key audit matters, and then after that, having formed an opinion on the financial statements, he has to communicate those matters and describe them in the auditor's report. Now, how will an auditor determine the key audit matters? So now the auditor will determine the matters, from the matters which were communicated with those charged with governance, the matters which required significant attention, auditor attention while performing the audit of financial statements. That is, the auditor is going to select from the matters which were communicated as per SA 260 with those charged with governance. Those matters, out of these, he will select those matters which were of significant which required significant auditor attention while performing the audit of financial statements, that is, which were significant to the audit of financial statements and required his attention, significant attention. So the auditor shall determine from the matters communicated with those charged with governance the matters which required significant auditor attention while performing the audit of financial statements. Now, in order to do that, he has to take care of three things. That is we are going to discuss now. That is, first of all, the areas of higher assessed of ROM, that is risk of material misstatements, or areas which had significant risks according to significant risks identified according to SA 315. Areas of higher risk of higher assessed risk of material misstatements or significant risk identified as per SA 315. Then next, significant auditor judgment was required. So basically, significant auditor judgment relating to areas of financial statements that involve significant management judgment, including accounting estimates which have been identified as having high estimation or uncertainty. So this basically means that the areas which are having significant management judgment would also involve significant auditor judgment. So he has to determine, when he is determining the key audit matters, he will take care of this, that he will take into account all those areas which required significant auditor judgment relating to areas which were involved, which also involved significant management judgment. And here it will also include accounting estimates which have been identified as having high estimation uncertainty. So in the accounting estimates which have high estimation uncertainty, those matters will also be included. So next, and the last one is that effect on audit. The next matter that needs to be considered by determining key audit matters will be effect on audit of significant events or transactions that occur during the period. So if there are any significant events or transactions which occur during the period, what was their effect on audit? We will also consider that while determining the key audit matters. So if we revise the entire thing, that how to determine key audit matters, the auditor shall determine from the matters communicated with those charged with governance the matters which required significant auditor attention while performing the audit of financial statements. It will include areas of higher assessed risk of material misstatements or significant risk identified as per SA 315. Then significant auditor judgment relating to areas which required significant management judgment, and also accounting estimates which have been identified as having higher estimation uncertainty. Then effect on audit of significant transactions or events that occurred during the period. Last is that communicating key audit matters, that is guidance on drafting KM. So the second objective of this SA 701 is to communicate the key audit matters. So how will that take place? Now, first of all, he has to include a separate section in the auditor's report under the heading key audit matters. Now we need to have a separate section which will be headed, which will have the heading key audit matters, and each key audit matter will be described under the appropriate subheading. So in the separate section of key audit matters, like with this appropriate subheading, the key audit matters will be described. Now what will be the introductory language? The introductory language first of all will state that the key audit matters are those matters which in the auditor's professional judgment were of the most significance in the audit of financial statements of the current period. So this is the basic intro, and then after that it will also include that these matters were addressed in the audit of financial statements as a whole and also in the forming of auditor's opinion. This is written because these key auditor matters were also considered while in the assessment that if audit of the financial in the audit of financial statements, and also considered in forming the opinion. We also need to include a very important line, that is, auditor does not provide a separate opinion on these matters. So now, first of all, we need to understand that the auditor is not providing a separate opinion on these matters, and they are being addressed as a whole. So these matters were addressed in the audit of financial statements as a whole and also informing the auditor's opinion. So first, all the three things that we need to take care with regards to communicating key audit matters will be that the auditor shall include a separate section in the auditor's report which is known as the key audit matters. Each key audit matter will be addressed under a separate subheading. Then after each key audit matter will be described under a separate appropriate subheading. Then the introductory language will include that the key audit matters are those matters which in the auditor's professional judgment were of most significance to the audit of financial statements. That is the definition of key audit matters. And then after that it will also include that the matters were considered in the audit of financial statements as a whole and also in the forming of the auditor's opinion. And the auditor does not provide a separate opinion on these matters. Now, an important topic which is also included here is that communicating key audit matters is not substitute to a few things. Now, this also acts as a separate question, and this is quite important. That is, communicating key audit matters will not be a substitute, first of all, a substitute for disclosure in the financial statements. So whatever disclosures are included in financial statement as per the applicable FRF, which are required by the management or in order to achieve fair presentation, it is not, key audit matters are not a substitute to that, even though they're describing certain matters. So communicating key audit matters is not a substitute for disclosures in the financial statements which are required as per the applicable financial reporting framework or which are necessary to achieve fair presentation. Secondly, it is not a substitute for auditor expressing a modified opinion when required by the circumstances of the specific audit engagement as per SA 705. So it is not going to be a substitute for expressing the modified opinion when it is required by SA 705. It is also not a substitute for reporting according to 570 when 570 mein we report that when a material uncertainty exists relating to events or conditions which are casting a significant doubt on the entity's ability to continue or exist as a going concern, we need to report this. So it is also not a substitute for reporting according to SA 570. Then it is also not a separate opinion on individual matters. So here we are not providing separate opinion on individual matters. We are just highlighting and explaining the matters which required significant auditor's judgment. This is also something which we include in the paragraphs, that is, auditor does not provide a separate opinion on these matters, and these matters have been considered in the audit of financial statement as a whole and in the expressing of the auditor's opinion on the financial statement as a whole.